His taunting and telling you suck mid-match is not on here. I'm well aware it's one of the most memorable things about him, but Shao Kahn has done much worse throughout the Mortal Kombat story. Seeing that he'll be returning in Mortal Kombat 11 along with his personal taxman, it's possible Shao Kahn might be up to more mischief. In case you're not familiar with some of these terrible things he's already done, let us review his horrid history. These are 10 of the worst things Shao Kahn has ever done. We'll be focusing on the most detestable deeds of Shao Kahn in the main Mortal Kombat story, so we'll be excluding anything from crossovers and other adaptations. You know, no Dark Khan stuff, even though Dark Khan was... I don't want to talk about DC Universe. With all that being said,
let us begin.
Number 10, Poisoning Onaga. So, Shao Kahn has shown himself to be incredibly powerful. He has superhuman strength, durability, agility, and even the ability to utilize magic. As dominant of a force he's been throughout the series, you'd think he'd obtain his throne by overpowering the one who preceded him. Nope. Shao Kahn was originally an advisor to the Dragon King Onaga, whose empire became the most powerful among all the realms. Rather than straight up challenge the Dragon King, Shao Kahn poisoned him and claimed his place as ruler. For someone with a hammer that hits a cartoonish home run with every big swing, this is cowardly. Also, what kind of poison was it? For such a gigantic and powerful being like Onaga, it had to have been one hell of a poison to kill him with little difficulty. This ranks low on the list, seeing that Onaga, while not as evil as Shao Kahn, was still pretty bad himself. Despite that, there are no implications that he treated Shao Kahn horribly to the point where it warranted being poisoned to death. Number 9, Invading Arnyek. But wait a minute, I hear you say, didn't Shao Kahn invade numerous other realms? Yes, he absolutely did. Why did I specifically name Arnyek home of the Kaiten? Of all the realms Shao Kahn has invaded, Arnyek was the most defenseless. This island realm lacks any type of defense against outsiders. All of the Kaiten practically ran away upon seeing Outworld's relentless ruler and his right-hand man Reiko, except of course for one, D'Vorah. Ultimately, Shao Kahn spared her. Not for being brave as you probably thought, you're right, but only because she basically groveled and agreed to serve him. Luckily, Shao Kahn didn't live to see what D'Vorah did to his daughter. Oh, and we will get to her later. Number 8, draining much of the life from Outworld. You ever notice how Outworld is mostly barren with deserts and wastelands? The closest thing to a place rich with any vegetation in Outworld is the Living Forest, and it is far from looking welcoming or peaceful. The trees are sentient and will feast on unwary travelers should they become hungry. Outworld's overall look is the fault of its ruler, Shao Kahn. Further monopolizing power for himself, he drained much of the life from the vegetation in the realm, which I'm fairly sure deprived Outworld's poor of a living and screwed over farmers. Number 7, bestowing the souls of lost warriors to Quan Chi. While he didn't play much of a part in the mainframe story of Mortal Kombat X, Shao Kahn did partially lay the foundation for it. If the infighting among our heroes and their unwilling revenant former allies broke your heart, blame Shao Kahn. Many of you may recall in Mortal Kombat 9, Quan Chi fed Shao Kahn a plan to thwart one of Earthrealm's greatest defenses, which we'll also get to later. In return, he granted Quan Chi the souls of any Earthrealm warriors slain in the midst of their onslaught. Granted, it was Quan Chi who proposed the plan and did most of the hands-on, sorcery-laden dirty magic work, Shao Kahn basically approved it. What makes it worse is that the Khan made a deal with somebody who was totally using him, seeing that Quan Chi was actually working for Shinnok. Granted, the likes of Jax, Scorpion, and Kuai Liang were restored to their human form, that still left the likes of Kung Lao, Kitana, and Liu Kang as revenants, the last two becoming joint rulers of the Netherrealm upon Shinnok and Quan Chi's downfall. Things probably wouldn't have been as bad come Mortal Kombat X if Shao Kahn hadn't written off on this plan. Speaking of Shao Kahn supporting terrible ideas, Number 6, disowning and replacing Kitana. Clearly Shao Kahn is partial to genetic experimentation, seeing that he's dabbled in it twice. Once involved his creation of Scarlet, which could have also made this list, seeing that he keeps her in prison until he needs her, giving her a limited amount of time to collect donations. Blood joke. However, his first and most well-known brush with genetic experiments is one of the most disrespectful things a step-parent could ever do. Like the previous entry, Shao Kahn had someone else do the dirty work, this time Shang Tsung. Mortal Kombat 11's first DLC character went into the flesh pits and created the infamous Mileena. In the original timeline, Mileena served as something of a spy for Shao Kahn to keep his stepdaughter in line. In Mortal Kombat 9, Kitana was led to her after receiving a tip from Raiden. Kitana defeated Mileena and her creator Shang Tsung, then proceeded to report her findings to Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn praises the sorcerer's actions, and Kitana ends up being escorted away to execution, but not before hearing the Khan ordering the sorcerer to
Return to the flesh pits. Bring me my daughter, Mileena.
Wow. Granted the two stories have their differences, Shao Kahn had the same motivation, to hide the truth from Kitana. What truth? Well, number 5, forcing himself into a family. We just went over how Shao Kahn is practically an evil step-parent with superhuman strength, sorcery, and fascination with his hammer. Not like that. How did he become said step-parent? I'll answer in the form of one of his fatalities.
Shao Kahn wins. Fatality!
If that wasn't clear enough, the answer is forcing his way in. To be fair, and the irony of me using that term to describe Shao Kahn in this video, Shao Kahn did dominate Edenia in Mortal Kombat, racking up 10 straight tournament victories, which enabled him to invade the realm. Annexing Edenia wasn't satisfying enough for the Khan, as he proceeded to kill King Jerrod, Edenia's ruler, husband of Sindel, father of Kitana. He then married Sindel and adopted Kitana, by force, mind you. Imagine not only having a step-parent that is madder than a soul natal full of Tarkatans, but also one who tried to replace you with the genetic experiment. Number 4, invading Earthrealm. Oh, come on! I thought we were done talking about Shao Kahn being a cruddy family man! Breathe. I'm sorry about that outburst. If you will indulge me, let me explain a lot calmly, if you will. In the Mortal Kombat 2 storyline, Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung staged a Mortal Kombat tournament, luring the Earthrealm warriors into Outworld. Already a cheap move, seeing that being on his home turf would give Shao Kahn a ridiculous advantage. This, however, isn't the worst part. No, that would be the fact that 1, the tournament was fake, and the result wouldn't have meant a thing, and 2, it was a distraction from Shang Tsung shenanigans, let's go on ahead and call them Shang Tsunanigans, going on in Earthrealm. There, the sorcerer would resurrect Queen Sindel. This act alone enabled Shao Kahn to cross the border, separating the realms and forcing an Outworld-Earthrealm merger. So basically, he exploited his wife, who he forced into marriage, all for the sake of achieving his much-desired merger with Earthrealm. Not only is that in and of itself preposterous, but he basically cheesed his way to his goal instead of doing it via Mortal Kombat. I mean, sheesh, Shao Kahn, you won 10 straight tournament matches to take over Edenia. You're practically a freaking world beater. You think you're too good to obey the Elder God's Mortal Kombat rules, Shao Kahn? Number 3, killing Kung Lao. I guess that's a yes to my previous question. I'm sure you all remember it. Kung Lao defeats the tag team otherwise known as the Deadly Alliance, then he beats Four-Armed Tony the Tiger, gets booed by the crowd, and then snap! I meant Kung Lao's neck. Yeah. After showing that he's also top tier in story canon, he died with a broken freaking neck. Shouts out to Kurt, by the way. Aside from the obvious reason this is a terrible thing to do, it's also worth noting this was basically a one-hit cheap shot, as Shao Kahn didn't even make a formal challenge to the Shaolin monk in Mortal Kombat. In this scenario though, Shao Kahn swiftly got some comeuppance with Liu Kang punching a hole through him with a flame fist, the same one he'd used in MKX to melt health bars. Number 2, reviving and empowering a corrupt Sindel. This particular entry is specifically about the event that occurred in the current timeline, seeing that we already covered Sindel's revival in the original timeline. However, that situation turned out better as the Earthrealm warriors were able to defeat Shao Kahn and force him out of their realm back into Outworld. Also, Kitana was able to restore her mother Sindel's memories after she'd been brainwashed by the Khan, effectively turning her against him and vowing to rebuild Edenia. In the current timeline, things panned out much differently, and dare I say, horribly. Another difference in this timeline is that this time around, it's Quan Chi that resurrects and corrupts Sindel. This was already a heavy blow to Earthrealm, seeing that Sindel, unwilling to live in a torturous marriage with the worst possible husband imaginable, committed suicide. In doing so, Sindel provided a barrier that protected Earthrealm from Shao Kahn, as it would prevent him from physically entering. Her resurrection and corruption would then nullify said protection. She would then proceed to kill all the Earthrealm warriors. This time around, Sindel brushed off Kitana's pleas the same way her husband brushes off much of the damage you do to him in boss fights. Sinister Sindel would meet her demise via a sacrifice by Nightwolf. The fact that this whole debacle ended with an unwillingly evil mother killing her daughter only to die and end up a dead crony to Sorcerer Eggwhite places it on this list. And number 1, imprisoning Sindel's soul. Gosh, this Shao Kahn's a horrible husband. So, recall the entry where Sindel ended her own life, doing so because she foresaw nothing but subservience and misery whilst being married to Shao Kahn. In the original timeline, upon her death, Shao Kahn held Sindel's soul in Outworld, effectively barring her from transitioning into the afterlife. This is how Shao Kahn was able to exploit her and cheat his way into Earthrealm. Shao Kahn not only imprisoned and exploited Sindel's soul for his own gain, but robbed her of freedom from his vile ventures and a peaceful rest. It's just... this is just depressing. So, not gonna end it like that. So here's a picture of Jade, Sindel, and Kitana. That's much better. Know of any other horrible things that Shao Kahn has done? Well, keep them to yourself. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. God dang.